Prader-Willi syndrome is a genetically determined disorder, so it's often nowadays suspected at birth because of this combination of floppiness, failure to thrive, difficulties feeding. But what's striking about children with Prader-Willi syndrome is that as they grow, and as they usually reach 2, 3 or 4 years of age, what happens is the child seems to develop a much greater interest in food. So the child will take as much food as the parents would offer them. And then what happens is you begin to see the child becoming obese. Maybe it's better thinking of it as a syndrome of starvation, in the sense that people with Prader-Willi syndrome are fooled into thinking that they're still hungry, even though they've eaten a large amount of food.
We felt that it was really important to put some rules and structure in place to support Daisy. She eats at regular times.
We have some salad. Do you want some salad with yours? Yeah. Well, can you get some chutney up, please?
Yes. Our cupboards aren't locked and our kitchen isn't locked, but Daisy can manage that. It's worked for her.
As the child gets older, not only do you see a persistence of this tendency to overeat, but their development tends to be mildly delayed. It may become apparent that they have some, usually mild, learning disability. So we recognise now that the slow growth in childhood, the failure of a growth spurt prior to puberty, and the short stature that is so characteristic of people with Prader-Willi syndrome, it's because they have a relative growth hormone deficiency. So nowadays, the growth hormone would be replaced starting in early childhood, and that means that children with Prader-Willi syndrome may now be of normal stature.
It's a complex syndrome with lots of seemingly unrelated conditions with it. In addition to the whole eating disorder, there are lots of other aspects to the syndrome. Poor body temperature control, which Daisy suffers from a lot. She has poor muscle tone, so she tires easily, she can't exert herself physically very well, and so the whole weight loss and eating cycle is a bit of a vicious circle.
There's often a tendency to repetitive and ritualistic behaviours, sometimes referred to as obsessive behaviours. As they get older, they seem to be prone to developing depression or mood problems.
It can make me very emotional at times, and I just feel really frustrated, and it's not really like I'm actually upset. It's just like PWS is pulling me out and I'm trying to stay right back here, and with myself stretching, I'm getting closer and closer towards a more stressful situation.
She gets very emotional and very upset very easily. And sometimes that can be because although Daisy's an articulate child and she has good understanding, she might get confused by a social situation, and she needs that something explaining to her fully until she's clear in her head before she can move on, and sometimes that can take quite a long time.
The issue of what school children with Prader-Willi syndrome go to, I think, is a difficult one. What you find is that in terms of intellectual ability, they would be best suited having special support in mainstream school. But many of them do end up in special schools, and that's largely, I think, because of their behavioural difficulties.
She does quite well at school. She's quite successful at especially things like reading and writing, and so she's managed to achieve a lot more than I think that we thought that she would. And she's managed to go through mainstream primary and mainstream secondary, which is quite unusual for people with Prader-Willi, but at the moment she's succeeding with that with support in place.
I do like school. I think I get brilliant support. I have 3 TAs. I just come into lessons and make sure I'm okay. And it's really, really lovely. I always saw myself being a teacher, but I think instead of that now, I think I'm going to work with animals.
We've now seen generations of children grow up and become adults with the syndrome. The question is how best to support them once they become adults, because with adult life, the big difference is independence. And that people with Prader-Willi syndrome, although they may have some minor degree of a learning disability are able to lead independent lives.
The Prader-Willi Association were very, very supportive and helpful and put us in touch with other people that we could talk to, and that was the most helpful thing, in talking to other parents and hearing how their children actually were and all the things that they could actually do.
I think one can give hope to parents and say there is much that you can do that will contribute to the well-being of your child. We do understand the syndrome much more, and I think one can, in a sense, put yourself in their shoes in a way that wouldn't have been possible before.
And my mum, yeah, we sometimes argue and things, but she's really helped and supported me through this. And although I sometimes say, like, I feel like she doesn't really understand, she always does.